Hi, this is Tim Troutman with the National Weather Service office in Riverton, Wyoming here. Today I'm going to talk to you about weather and the National Weather Service. So taking a look at what we do as meteorologists. Meteorology is that science that deals with the atmosphere, especially weather and weather forecasting, whether we're issuing forecasts and warnings for tropical storms, for severe storms, and also for flooding. The National Weather Service, we're the only entity that's allowed by congressional law to issue warnings and forecasts by the Organic Act that was enacted many years ago. We advise in each county emergency operations centers through the County Emergency Management Agency and the 911 centers so that we make sure that our warnings are issued and that the emergency management and 911 centers can disseminate and get those warnings out to the public. That's our objective, is issuing those warnings for protection of life and property. We work closely with county and local governments, state governments, to ensure that residents across the state of Wyoming and surrounding areas are as prepared as possible. So that's our objective, is protection of life and property through the issuance of warnings. Each year, more than 500 Americans die due to weather and flood events, unfortunately. More than 5,000 are injured. Weather and flood losses cost America each year more than $14 billion due to these catastrophes related to severe weather that do happen. Whether it's flooding, damaging winds, hurricanes, tornadoes that do occur, we do have quite a bit of damage that does happen each year across the U.S. A typical year brings, on average, about 7 hurricanes with 1,000 tornadoes, 5,000 floods, and 10,000 violent thunderstorms. And also, while that's going on, there is typically drought occurring somewhere in the U.S. while all that's happening. So the thing that I want to talk to you about today is, how do we make weather forecasts at the National Weather Service? So initially, we start out by releasing a weather balloon, and we do release this weather balloon each day at around 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. This weather balloon that's launched, such as in this image here, we blow up the balloon. It's about 10 feet tall in length. We fill it up with hydrogen, and we attach it to a parachute. And below the parachute is the instrument down here that's known as a radiosonde. This radiosonde instrument measures in the atmosphere when we release the balloon. It has a mechanism that we turn on that allows us to measure the temperature, the dew point temperature, the relative humidity, the pressure, and also record the wind speed and direction as the balloon rises up through the atmosphere. Well, eventually, within about an hour and a half, the balloon will make it up there to around 70,000 feet in the stratosphere, and then at that point, it will pop, and then at that point, the balloon will begin to drop to the ground with the parachute, where it takes over along with the instrument, the radiosonde, and it makes it back down to the ground. We typically have recovered about 25% of all the radiosonde instruments from the balloon launches. So it's quite a bit of them that are still out there. And we do release these weather balloons twice a day. All that data goes into one big supercomputer in Maryland, and it helps us to put together that weather forecast. Well, all that data from about 80 to 90 locations across the country is transferred to this one big supercomputer in Maryland. Well, this supercomputer has a long math problem or an equation known as a model inside of it. Well, this model processes all that weather data from all the sites across the U.S., and it creates forecast weather maps. So we have 3 main models that we look at each day, and we try to figure out hour by hour as we go all the way to 7 days what is going to be the temperature forecast. Is there going to be a chance of precipitation in the forecast, wind speed and direction of the winds in the forecast, and the sky conditions? Because everyone needs to know, is it going to be clear? Is it going to be sunny? Are we going to have cloudy conditions? Is there going to be a chance of rain today? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? Is there going to be snow? So the weather forecast typically drives everything that we do, of course, each day. So what causes the weather? Well, each day when the sun's rays heat the lower part of the atmosphere, that's when you begin to have the heating that occurs as the day begins.
Today we're going to talk to you about weather and how you can create wind within the afternoon hours especially. So as the sun's rays heat the lower part of the atmosphere, pretending this is the table, this warm air is warm, and as it rises, it's very light air. So with time to create wind, here's what happens. As the air rises, you can see with the pinwheel here that it creates wind as the air continues to rise up into the atmosphere. So with time, as that air continues to rise, as we move further up into the atmosphere, these invisible drops of water that we have right here, but we can see them as what we've got here are two ping pong balls. So I'm going to show you as these two invisible drops of water that we can see, as they rise up into the atmosphere, they'll bang against each other and form these water droplets into one droplet, forms into two. Two droplets will form together to 5, 10, 100,000, maybe even up to 1,000,000 drops of water, depending on how much moisture is in the atmosphere. So here's the hair dryer with the demonstration of the drops of water as they rise up into the atmosphere. We'll try this a couple more times. There's one drop of water moving up and down, and oops, there goes another drop of water. But you can see by the demonstration, there's your drop of water moving up and down into the atmosphere. So eventually, as this water droplet moves up and back down, it'll pick up more moisture back and forth in this process. As the warm air is rising and cooler air is dropping downward, this process will continue until finally you get what's called a visible cloud. Well, as that visible cloud continues to form into the atmosphere with time, you begin to get the development of a thunderstorm. So within a thunderstorm, you've got these continued updrafts, downdrafts of wind, creating this continued freezing of the water droplets as the water droplet gets above the freezing level up there about 10,000 feet. So eventually these drops of water freeze together to become hailstones, and eventually with time you get so much hail that's larger in size that it will make it down to the ground and not get picked back up again by updraft before it makes it to the ground, and then it drops in the form of hail. So here in Wyoming, because we're already setting it between 5,000 and 6,000 feet into the atmosphere, it doesn't take that very far for the hailstones to drop down to make it to the ground. That's why with most thunderstorms we do have at least some small hail that does occur. Well, as the sky has a green shading to it, if you see that as the thunderstorm is approaching you, where that green shading is, it's where it's hailing. It's just the sun's rays reflecting off the hailstones, creating that hue or color that creates the hail. Look to the thunderstorm. So where it's green, it's hailing. If it moves toward you, obviously at that point you want to move indoors, stay away from windows, and watch out for more potential hazardous weather. Well, on days where you have really large hailstones occur, like in this example with the ping pong ball, when it gets up above ping pong ball size to golf ball size or greater, then at that point, then with the large hail, the larger the hail, the better the chance that there could be a tornado. So I'm going to illustrate with you with this tornado tube the development of a tornado, and as that tornado occurs, you can see the spinning motion of the tornado as the tornado moves across the area. So with a tornado as it is approaching you, most tornadoes travel from southwest to northeast at average speeds of about 30 miles an hour. the important thing to think about with a tornado is, as the tornado is approaching, you want to have as many walls between you and the tornado as possible. And you want to cover your head. Most injuries are related to flying debris. So, move to a most interior part of your home. If you have a basement, that's the best place to move to. Also a bathroom, 4 good sturdy walls, and in the most interior part of your house. The best way to get your warning as a tornado is approaching is via NOAA weather radio. If you don't have a weather radio, I recommend you getting one. You can get them at most electronic stores, even including Walmart these days. They're typically at about $30, and you can get your warnings within 5 seconds of the issuance of the tornado or severe thunderstorm warnings directly from the National Weather Service. So here's an example of a NOAA weather radio broadcast.
Continued chance of showers and thunderstorms through the weekend. Now, for the official National Weather Service forecast for the Lander Foothills and Wind River Basin.
So with the NOAA weather radio, when it alerts, it will create like a siren sounding to that. With the weather radio, it will alert you automatically if it's set to alarm for your county or a surrounding county, and you can get those warnings directly from the National Weather Service. Since we issue the warnings, it's the fastest way to get your warnings. So, the important thing also about thunderstorm activity is lightning safety. Remember this motto: when thunder roars, go indoors. If your hair stands on end, if your skin tingles, you're about to be struck by lightning. At that point, you want to move indoors as quickly as possible. If you're caught outside and have nowhere else to go, make sure you don't move to underneath the largest object, because lightning will strike the tallest object. It does not discriminate. If you feel that sensation, the important thing of your hair standing on end, very staticky feeling, is you're about to be struck with lightning in about a second or so. At that point, also, if you have nowhere else to go, you want to make yourself as low of a target as possible. Get in what I call the catcher stance. If you watch baseball, you want to cup your hands over your ears. You want to duck your head and shut your eyes, and keep the balls of your back of your feet up off the ground. But make yourself as low of a target as possible. The reason you want to cup your hands over your ears is the concussion from the lightning strike nearby can burst your eardrum. So it's important to make sure that you try to keep your ears safe. You want to shut your eyes because the brightness of the lightning strike can definitely produce eye damage. Most injuries or deaths related to lightning activity or lightning strikes is related to lightning striking you, and it stops your heart from beating. So if someone knows CPR, they can quickly tap you back into play, I guess you could say. So, the other thing to think about with weather safety is with flash flooding. All thunderstorms contain, of course, in most cases, heavy rain. And along with that, every once in a while we get flash flooding. So if water covers the road, or if water is rising to the point to where it's at knee level or higher, at that point you definitely don't want to get into water that's flowing across the road or in any other area, because all it takes is about knee level water. If you walk into it, it can knock you down and carry you off. Unfortunately, lightning and secondarily flooding are the two main weather hazards in Wyoming. With flash flooding, again, remember this motto: when thunder roars, go indoors. So, today's objective is not to scare you about severe weather safety, but it's to make sure that you know what to do if in fact severe weather does strike. So with that, I hope this is very helpful for you, and we want you guys especially to be very safe and to be here for the next many years to come, because you guys are going to be the future of our country. So with that, the important thing about weather too is always keep a watch to the weather. And if you're interested in being a meteorologist, all you have to do is continue to take your math and science classes. You need to go to college and get a 4-year degree in either meteorology or atmospheric science. There are careers at the National Weather Service. We're with the federal government through NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. There are also careers in television broadcasting. There are private companies that also hire meteorologists for various forecasting activities.
To have the required ingredients for thunderstorms, you have to have moisture, which is preferred in the lower to mid levels of the atmosphere. And across our region, you have to have, a combination of either a monsoonal flow moving up into Wyoming, or you also have to have also the northwest flow coming off the Pacific that will bring that moisture into the region. And you got to have that moisture in the lower to mid levels of the atmosphere. So along with moisture, we monitor for severe weather. We look at 3 factors with severe storms when they do happen. We look for the potential for tornadoes to develop. Wind gusts 58 miles an hour or higher will constitute severe thunderstorms that will produce wind damage, whether it's winds knocking down trees, blowing over objects, producing structural damage. When you get hail that's greater than 1 inch in diameter, which is considered quarter size, that will be the size of hail that will begin to produce damage to objects outside, such as your vehicles, windshields, roof, houses, and so forth like that. So the National Weather Service, we go through a process where if there's going to be a potential for severe weather on a particular day, we will issue what's called a severe weather watch. A watch means severe weather is possible within the next 3 to 6 hours out from the current time that the watch is issued. And at that point, when a watch is issued, that means remain alert for possible warnings. A watch means get ready, get set. It doesn't mean to go yet to your safe location. It just means to keep a close watch to the weather. Well, when that's occurring at the Weather Service, we're definitely keeping a close weather watch by looking at radar, monitoring conditions. And when it looks as though a storm is going to produce severe weather, we will issue a severe weather warning. We issue a severe thunderstorm warning if large hail and damaging winds are expected. And we issue tornado warnings if a tornado is imminent or occurring. Flash flood warnings are issued also when flooding is imminent or occurring. So when a warning is issued, that means go to your safe location. And that also means severe weather is imminent or it even could be occurring. So, along with that, with severe weather, tornadoes are violently rotating columns of air that are capable of producing significant damage when they're on the ground. Wind speeds of over 200 miles an hour have been documented with some tornadoes, and tornadoes can do an extensive amount of damage when they do touch down to structures, homes, subdivisions in this example. And when a tornado is spotted or a tornado warning is issued, it's really important to move to that safe location. Have a predetermined safe location to move to, at that point. If you're in your school, obviously have those predetermined locations already predetermined so you can move to that safe location. Tornadoes are definitely dangerous, and they can do a lot of damage. So the thing to think about also with severe weather, hail is precipitation that falls in the form of ice. So hail can range from the size of a pea to the size of cantaloupes. Hail occurs when moisture that's within the thunderstorm, that moisture collides and forms together, and the wind produces an updraft of wind that lifts that moisture until it gets above the freezing level up there where the planes are flying around. Most of the time at or about 10,000 feet in the atmosphere. So when that does happen, of course, the moisture turns to ice or hail, and it bonds and forms together. So the hailstone gets larger and larger, and eventually the size of the hail is going to be so much weight that it's going to make it down to the ground. So on days where you have really strong up and downdraft motions within the storm, that's a good indicator where you're going to have larger hail. And the more potential for larger hail means you've got more spinning motion within the storm, which also means that there's more of a threat of tornadoes. If you're driving along or if you're looking at a storm and it's approaching you and you see the green shading that's occurring within the cloud, within the thunderstorm, usually toward the southwest corner of the storm. Where that green shading is occurring is where it's hailing. And as it approaches you, obviously you want to move indoors, stay away from windows, and protect yourself. Large hail can definitely fall to the ground at a speed of 100 miles an hour. So picture the fastest Major League Baseball pitcher throwing you a fastball from about 30 to 40,000 feet in the atmosphere down to the ground. So, you know, it's going to inflict some damage if it's a large hailstone, as in this image. So the important thing about hail is to move indoors, stay away from windows until the storm is passed. Hail can produce a lot of damage. You can see here in this image, large hail definitely busted the windows and did damage to the car and also to the propeller and also the rear portion of the plane there in that example. So hail can do a lot of damage. Hurricanes are severe tropical storms with wind speeds greater than 74 miles an hour. Winds over 200 miles an hour are possible in the strongest hurricanes. So our hurricane season typically runs from about mid-May until about November across the areas in the Pacific and the Atlantic, including the Gulf of Mexico region. So the thing to think about with hurricanes is they are a very large area of low pressure, and tropical storm to hurricane force winds can extend for numerous miles from the eye of the storm. So, there's a large potential area of damage within a hurricane. Hurricanes can produce a lot of onshore flooding. A lot of high winds, of course, occur along the leading edge of a hurricane. On the northeast quadrant of the storm, you can get tornadoes that can form out ahead of the hurricane, and that also provides, unfortunately, a 1-2 punch with the storm. So along with onshore flooding, you also get flooding rainfall from the intense amount of rain that does occur with these tropical systems. So the other types of severe weather, of course, can be ice storms, across the U.S. We don't get a lot of ice storms here in Wyoming, of course, but a lot of snow, but ice storms definitely can hinder an area for days, especially a storm that's going to produce ice that can be accumulating at greater than 1/4 of an inch on all items. It can cause trees, power lines, and branches to snap off. But flash flooding is definitely the #1 weather killer related to thunderstorms across the U.S. Flash floods kill more people every year than any other natural disaster. Only 6 inches of water can float most cars downstream. So remember this motto, turn around, don't drown. That's the important thing to remember. Turn around, don't drown. It's important not to drive into those flooded roads. All it takes is a few inches, 6 inches or greater, that can lift up a vehicle and buoyantly carry it off, and then you don't have control of the vehicle. And that's where we get the vast majority of our flash flood fatalities are from people that unfortunately drive into flooded roads. So, turn around, don't drown is our motto. Here's some tornado safety rules also to talk about. If a tornado is approaching, go to that basement. If you have a basement, best place to move to because you're underground. Interior room on the lowest floor, such as a closet, bathroom. Wrap yourself in blankets. Cover your head. Most injuries are head-related injuries due to flying debris. You want to abandon cars or mobile homes if at all possible as soon as possible. All it takes is 80 miles an hour worth of wind that can lift up and toss a vehicle. And folks, 80 miles an hour worth of wind is on the lowest end of a tornado as it occurs. If you're outside, seek shelter in a sturdy building. Try to locate those sturdy buildings along your normal route home each day. Have 3 to 5 locations if you need to get off the road at a moment's notice if a tornado warning is issued or you spot a tornado in the distance. Never ever seek shelter under a highway overpass. Winds funnel in that overpass and can increase by as much as 25% more in and around that overpass. So it's important not to get under an overpass. The best thing to think about with tornado safety rules is protect your head again. Most injuries are head related or upper body related due to flying debris. Involving lightning safety. Lightning is the underrated killer too, and here in Wyoming, we do have quite a bit of lightning activity in the summer months between late May to about September. So with lightning, you want to remember this motto: when thunder roars, go indoors. And avoid using telephones or electrical appliances. Don't take a bath or a shower while thunderstorms going on. And if outdoors, try to move to a safe shelter if you can find one. Avoid trees or tall objects. If you're swimming, obviously get out of that water immediately, because lightning attracts to water and to metal. If you feel your skin tingling or your hair standing on end, squat down with your head between your knees, get as low to the ground as I would say, and that's what I would call a catcher stance if you follow baseball or watch baseball. If you get into that stance, you want to cup your hands around your ears, duck your head, and shut your eyes. The reason you want to cup your hands over your ears is that can protect your eardrum, and in the event that the concussion of the lightning strike is nearby, it can help you by cupping your hands over your ears to limit the chances of your eardrum being burst. You want to shut your eyes because of the brightness of the lightning flash that could cause some eye damage. If you are struck by lightning and someone is with you, they can bring your heart back into play if it does stop your heart from beating. But a lot of folks, unfortunately, have some neurological problems after the lightning strike. Here's an example of what it could look like if you are about to be struck by lightning. There's your hair standing on end, all that staticness. That means you could be struck by lightning in a matter of a few seconds. So at that point, you don't want to stay where you're at, and you want to move. Take a quick jog in any direction of other than where you're at, and then get down as low to the ground in that catcher stance. You don't want to lay long ways across the ground either, because of the fact that when lightning strikes, it spreads out. So keep those things in mind. So we do issue severe weather warnings. We utilize extensively Doppler radar. And, the important thing about Doppler radar, it allows us to look into the storm. It allows us to be able to see the intensity of the raindrops within the storm and where the hail is occurring, like right here. Southwest part of the storm here is where we're trying to look at for the development of what we call the hook-like echo that could be producing the tornado in this region right here. And the velocity region of the Doppler radar allows us to look into the storm and see the winds blowing inbound toward the storm, which would be the green shading, winds blowing away from the storm, which would be the red shading. Where the red and the green are meeting, they're creating this counterclockwise motion in the winds. And where that is, basically the connection is occurring right there, is likely where the tornado is spotted, indicated by the reflectivity image, the velocity image. And then when you look out your window, unfortunately, you may be seeing this image like this person did on August the 30th, 2010, when the 10 sleep tornado was occurring there. It was an EF1. So radars are important because we use these to help save your life. It allows us to tell the difference between a regular thunderstorm and a tornadic thunderstorm based upon what we're trained to look at. If you don't have a weather radio, I highly encourage you to get a weather radio. We broadcast warnings, watch information, advisories, and hourly weather and other related information on NOAA Weather Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is set, please have your radio set to alert if a severe weather warning is issued, and it can wake you up in the middle of the night even if bad weather is approaching, and that could mean the difference between you being in your safe place versus not when you have your TV or your regular radio turned off. So NOAA Weather Radio is the voice of the National Weather Service. It's the quickest way to get your warnings. And, you can definitely use these to help save your life. So here's some other sources that could be helpful for you. Visit our website at weather.gov/Riverton. There's lots of information on our website, and we have a lot of different resources, such as the Jetstream resource here at weather.gov/jetstream. There's a comprehensive weather lesson plans on this website that's related to weather that can help educate you and students, especially about natural hazards. Please utilize this website. And we've worked closely across the U.S. with schools. And here's an example of the Tornado Safety in Schools brochure that has specific information in it in regards to what to do if a tornado is spotted, you know, how to have a plan together, what to designate shelters, where are the right places to move to, and how it can help you be more weather ready. So this backside of the brochure deals with tornado watch actions and tornado warning actions and signals, and it can help you to write down, if you have one of these brochures, where to go and where would be the good places and what would be the right things to do if a tornado is indicated. So with that, I'm going to open up things up for questions, comments, suggestions. Please again visit our website at weather.gov/Riverton. I'm Tim Troutman. I'm the Warning Coordination Meteorologist at the National Weather Service here in Riverton. My email is tim.troutman@noaa.gov. Thank you very much.